This is Alvi Ahmad. I'm going to discuss about the examples of preprocessors, and I'm going to start with the define preprocessor, as Orwell already described about the include preprocessor. So we have been using the define preprocessor from the very beginning of our coding. Now we have used this to define something or some value before the code. So we can use the define, like hashtag define c as and the value. So when you use this, the code will automatically take the value, this value for the c, for c integer. So now if you see an example of the define, you can see that here is an example. In the very beginning of the program, we have used the define pi to 3.1415. By using this preprocessor, 3.1415 value has been assigned to pi. So when we use this pi to the area of the circle in here, so it will take the value 3.1415 and calculate the area. And this is how a defined preprocessor works. And sometimes we can use the defined preprocessor as a function, like a function call, like here, define circle area r, which is a function, and this is the function's equation, which is 3.1415 into r. So if we see an example about the function, here we have used define preprocessor to add the sum function, which is included with two integer I and j, and this equation will be I plus j. So in the program, when we have used the sum equals to sum x y, so x and y will be here and I and j. So the line sum equals to sum x plus y is transferred into sum x plus y by the preprocessor. As we can see, the values x and y are automatically substituted for the parameters I and j. So the next one is conditional completion. So conditional completion in C program, we can instruct a preprocessor whether to include certain chunk of code or not. To do so, conditional directives are used. It's similar to like a if statement, if a statement, as we had used before, but there is a difference between them. Like when we use the if or else statement, it works in the program when the program is compiled. But as we know that preprocessors are not, preprocessor works before the compilation of the code. It don't need before the execution of the code. So when you use this conditional completion, so they will work before the execution. Like here, the conditional is used to include certain chunks of code in our program before execution. So if you see some example of the conditional completion, there is, we can see that if defined, if defined, else if directives are used. Okay, this section examines, so if we see an example and or how the general form of if is shown here. If constant expression, then statement sequence and end. So when we use the if directive, if the constant expression is true, then the statement sequence will work, or print, or whatever we have given in the statement sequences, and we have to use end if at the end of the conditional completion. So they will work before the execution of the code. So if they are true, the code will be executed. Or so if you give a condition like if it is true, the code will execute, or if it's not true, the code will not execute. And so you can use this type of preprocessor. Like when the expression value of expression is true, the statement or statements between if and end if are compiled. When not, they will not compile. So we can use this conditionals to compile something or not compile, used by using what the condition constant expression give. So if we see the okay, we can also create if else ladder by else if directive, like we have used in condition like else if. So it will be the same general form. We will use else if. So in this one, we don't have to use end if for every if or else if. We can use it in the end, because else if will automatically go after if, so we don't have to use it in every line. So if we see an example of the conditional completion, we can see that here we have used define preprocessor, as we have discussed, which one we have discussed before. We have defined character set to 256. As we know, okay, so we have used the if preprocessor. So if character set is equals to 256, printf displaying ASCII character set plus extension, else printf displaying only ASCII character set. End. So when we run this program, if the statement or if the constant is true, or this condition we have given is true, it will compile this line and print this one, this line displaying ASCII characters. And if it's not true, then the second line and second line in the else preprocessor will be compiled, and the first line will not be compiled. So only this one will be print, or this one will be print. But as we have defined character set to 256, so the condition is true, so it will display ASCII characters sets plus extension. Oh, okay, one thing, as we all know, there are 127 ASCII characters, 0 to 127. So, and we have given the character set to 256, and we have also commanded to display ASCII character set plus extension. So it will show some math symbol or etc symbol. So if we see the code after compiling or executing, so if we are saying that only displaying only ASCII character set plus extension, this line has been printed, not this line, because this line hasn't even been compiled, and there are 256 ASCII characters with some symbol and with some ABCD etc. Okay, so there are 4 very important preprocessors we used to make our coding more easy. Okay, the first one is error preprocessor. It causes the compiler to stop the compilation and issue the error message. It generally includes the line error directive in the principal is used to directive is debugging. So when we use the error, when we use this error preprocessor, it prints in the error, it prints the message, or it prints the error message when to show in the not in the code, because it's a preprocessor and it will be compiled and not compiled before the execution of the code, so it will be printed in the log of the program, log of the compiler. So if we see an example of this one, we have used define preprocessor to define a function. And the next page, yes, here we have if integer max less than milliseconds to 12, error integer size cannot hold out 18 milliseconds. So if this condition is true, it will show the error message, else it will not show the error message and the code will be executed. So we have used here millisecond is 12, and which is really greater than integer max, so it will, the condition is true, and it will, the code will not be compiled or executed, and the error message will be shown. But the important thing is the error message will not be shown in the code, it will be shown in the log of the the compiler, like we have used code blocks. Oh, okay, we have used here include limits.h. Limits.h holds a value which is 2 to the power 31 minus 1, and we use this to hold this value. Okay, so if we run this code, we'll get this output. So we will not get the code, we will get the error message in the build messages in here, like here. Error integer size cannot hold out 18 milliseconds, as we have given this in here. So this is for this the error preprocessor used. So the next one is undefined preprocessor. It actually has no defined. Its principal use is to localize macronames. Like when like in this program, we have defined thyself in the beginning of the code. So we have used if defined preprocessor. If thyself is defined, it will print thyself is defined. Then we have undefined thyself by using the undefined preprocessor, and if defined thyself, printf this line is not compiled. Okay, so as we know that preprocessors, conditional preprocessors only compile that line which one is true for the condition. So in here, when we if define thyself in the first line, it is true as we have defined it at the very beginning. So this line will be compiled and this line will be printed. Then we have used that undefined preprocessor. So we have when we have undefined thyself. So the next line, if defined thyself, it is not true. So this line will not be compiled and we will not even show in the code. So if you see the answer, this is going to be the code. Thyself is defined, only this line is executed, and undefined has been used to this undefined thyself. So this is the use. Okay. When we want to change the values of the line currently being compiled and the name of being compiled, the principle is the line preprocessor is used. So the general form of using the line preprocessor is we used line, then the number of the line and the name of the code. Like we have used break.c, this is the name of the code and this is the number of the line. So the line number we give in here is actually the line number after the line, after this line, the after the line preprocessors line. So if we this its principal use is for debugging and managing larger projects to control the line, to understand control the line. So if we run this code, we will see this one, that as we have given that line 1000 in break.c. So and this will be the line number of this. As is the error message, the code will not be compiled and we so see the error message in the build messages. And this is, as you can see, that this is the line number and line number is 1000 as we have declared by using line preprocessor, and the error message you will take the line number and file name. Okay, the next one is pragma. This is used to give some instruct about the about other preprocessors. It vary from different compiler to compiler. So if a computer found a pragma it doesn't recognize, it ignores it actually. So you have to know about the which compiler accepts which pragmas to use this preprocessor. Okay, so as a lot of in C program we have a lot of things predefined. We have also some predefined macros. They are used to make easy our coding, so you don't have to write big codes. Like here, there are actually at least 5 or more defined predefined macros. The first one is date, the string containing the current date. The next one is file, string containing the file name. The line, it is representing the current line number, and stdc, it follows unsystem receive the value of non-zero integer. Then the last one is time, string containing the current date. So if in example like we want to print the date or time of the current timer, we can use this predefined macros like in this program. It's a normal one. Now when just we need to use it in a printf current time, and we have used a string and print to current and the time preprocessor, and it will, the output will be the current time of our PC. Okay, this is one. So there are some common mistakes we use when you write the preprocessor, and there are macro expansion should be enclosed with parentheses. Every macro expansion have to be enclosed with parentheses or brackets. And the next one is do not leave blank between macro template and its argument. Like in this one, define we have used the define preprocessor and square x into x. So if we give space between square and x, it will as it becomes a part of the it will not work, and the define preprocessor will not work. So it will result into improper result or compile time error. So we have to write like this with no gap between the argument and its macro template. The next one is don't sometimes give semicolon at the end of define statement, which is a big mistake. If we give semicolon, this will not work as a preprocessor, and the code will not execute properly. And allot one line for each macro processor, the last one. We have to give as we can use as much as preprocessor we want, but we have to give everyone each allot one line for each one. We can write them in one line, write all the preprocessors in one line. Like this one, if we like this, let include preprocessor and interested preprocessor, then the another preprocessor at the same line, it will wrong and it will be improper, so it will be common mistake. Okay, here are some references we have taken to make our presentation. Okay, thank you everyone. uh, Assalamu alaikum.